RealTuners Radio.
Are you interested in learning how to tune electronic fuel injection live in person with the guys from RealTuners? We have 2-day courses in dyno shops across the country. Register for all of these at RealTuners.com. Click on RealTuners Live Classes. If you'd like to bring 2 or more people, talk to us about group discounts. For more info or to make a reservation, go to RealTuners.com or message us at RealTuners LLC on Facebook. Learn how to tune your own standalone EFI systems like Holley, FuelTech, Megasquirt, Fast, and others on the chassis dyno. Includes topics such as traction control, individual cylinder tuning on a budget, and power adders. Upcoming classes with available seats are as follows. EFI Essentials in Detroit, Michigan, May 12th through 13th, and May 26th and 27th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then Holley EFI Essentials at 417 Motorsports in Springfield, Missouri, June 9th and 10th. And an Essentials class covering all standalones at Nano Nitrous in Kansas City on July 21st and 22nd. These classes are designed to help you get your project running successfully in a course taught by people who've actually done this kind of stuff for a living. What's up, everybody, and welcome to RealTuners Radio, episode 45. Tonight's guests, Jimmy Bowling from Buschur Racing. Also tonight, a group of our usual panel of hosts, including but not limited to John Bewley of Little John's Motorsports Solutions, Tom Sewell, FID Fuel Injector Development, James Short of Shore Tuning, Bill Fowler from Bear Brakes, Scott Evans with Helix Tuning, Tom Vigue of Brian Tooley Racing, Cody Bruce and or Mo Lonis from Nano Nitrous, Dan Parker, star of the movie Driven Blind, Ry Klemp from Bull City Speed, and I'm Scott Clark. I don't actually tune this podcast. I just set up the base calibration and stuff. This is RealTuners Radio. Welcome aboard.
Stuff. Right.
Hey, here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to RealTuners Radio, episode number 45. We are coming up on that first full year, which is outstanding. Ry Klemp wasn't on tonight, so I had to do the background or the intro, and it's I know I'm not as creative and funny as that guy is. He corrected the awesome jokes last week. But anyway, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, everyone. Got some guys on the line tonight. Got Jimmy Bowling from Buschur Racing and his buddy Dean Carnes, Stinky Pinky, is going to join us. These guys have an interesting bunch of stories, and they're also top 10 finalists on Horsepower Wars. It seems like all those guys are coming to us. I bet you that the people whoever wins that event, one of those teams is going to have been on our show. Just saying. So welcome aboard, Jimmy Dean. Jimmy Dean sounds like sausage. So, it's all right, man. I'm putting the man in Margarita tonight. So
if you want sauces, that's what you're gonna get, player.
With a name like Stinky Pinky.
Yeah.
What else can be said? So, man, we had to get right to it. Hang on a second. You know what? If somebody wants to talk for a little bit, I have to give some of the other guys can't get on because I gave out a bad link. So hold on, Mo. That's why there's, I know, right? When it's like, hey, why is nobody joining up tonight? Oh, yeah.
You guys gonna make it? Disco, Jimmy, you guys gonna make it? I'm like, hey, man, we've been trying to log on for 30 minutes.
Whoops.
So while Scott deals with the bad sausage, would our guests care to introduce themselves a little bit? I realize that in many ways you guys need no introduction.
He's basically saying nobody knows who the hell you are. Who are you guys?
I wouldn't doubt it.
We know who they are.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
All right, I'm Jimmy Bowling. As you mentioned, I own Buschur Racing. I also own All In Racing Engines, which is another company that I'm started 7 years ago. I just purchased Buschur Racing last November from one of my heroes in this business, David Buschur. So I grew up in drag racing and bracket racing, and then in the late 90s, I got into the Mitsubishi stuff. Are you there?
Yep, we're here.
Okay. So yeah, I grew up bracket racing. I got into the Mitsubishi stuff in the late 90s, and I was all about the technology, man. And not only was I all about the technology, I kind of knew, being 18 years old or so, like fresh out of high school, like if I was going to get paid to work on race cars, like import stuff was kind of the way to go. So that's how I got into Mitsubishi stuff. And so I worked in some engine businesses, and I even worked at Indy Cylinder Head manufacturer for a while. And so then I started my own deal back in 2012, and then last year I bought Buschur Racing. So pretty surreal deal, man. My guy's one of my heroes, so to take over his legacy, it's ridiculous. It hits me.
That is ridiculous, man. That company's got a gigantic legacy, and later on we'll probably talk a little bit more about just how much legacy. I've been working on 4G63s forever. Every fast one was loaded down with Buschur parts. Right.
Dude, I try to explain to my bracket racing friends and NHRA friends like what it's like. It's like, dude, it's like taking over Grumpy Jenkins' business or something. Like, or that's the best way I can explain it.
It is Grumpy Jenkins for the import four-banger crowd. It really, and for the fast ones.
For real.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right, enough about me for now.
Talk about your buddy Dean on here. He was worthy enough to grace us with his presence. I guess we're worthy.
Oh, geez, here we go. Disco Dean. I've been you can say jack of all trades, master of none from where I've started. I started racing remote control cars at a young age, and went professional at that. Went to the Worlds in Japan and nationals and regionals and everything. And then after that, I got into hydraulics on cars. I don't know if you guys seen cars dance and stuff like that. The Latino Mexican style. And I won the Lowrider Magazine World Hydraulic Championship 3 times. Built a car for my buddy. We won it one time with it. And then he passed away. And ever since I was young, I've been at the drag strip, since I've been in my mom's womb. And when I turned 16, me and my dad got into an argument about racing, who was the racer. And he told me I'd be able to race. And at that time, he had a partner on the race car, kind of didn't want me to drive or whatever. And he kind of pushed me away a little bit. He's like, look, there's one racer in this family, and that's enough right now. So then I got into the hydraulics and did all that stuff. And then my best friend died. It was like my brother. And he's like, hey, you want to get back into drag racing? I was like, well, hell yeah. So he went and bought me this turnkey. We call it the Shirley Muldowney Special at the time. It was a 1980s Nealon Parks dragster, 18-inch cage, shifter in the crotch, small block Chevy. The throttle stop was a bolt and a nut. And that's how you dialed it in.
He could fit in an 18-inch cage then.
Yeah, I could then. You couldn't get in with your ears. That was the funny part.
That's right.
You can barely get a helmet on. So
they make special ones.
Yeah. So anyway, I took that racing for a while. I did fairly well for what I was dealt with, and then just started evolving from there. And Jimmy got on board with me. We've been friends, and he started doing some engine work for me. And then we won the Nopi World Championship. That import stuff they had. We won Extreme Dragster, and they canceled that. Then I started doing Quick 8 stuff. Then I started doing professional bracket racing. And I've won a handful of, big money bracket races. And then I started getting into the no prep and the street racing stuff. And that's where I'm at right now. You guys okay?
Yeah, we're okay. Scott stepped away for a second, he said. So
I was like,
I want to hear from Brew.
What's going on, Jimmy?
Just living the dream. Another day. I know you know all about the customers and all the stuff that we deal with.
Oh man.
Do you like my comment on that thing yesterday when I said I find it's ironic that you are commenting this given the status?
Yeah, that was probably the most ironic comment ever been on a Facebook post ever.
If you could frame exactly what it's like to be in this business, that right there is it in a nutshell, man.
Oh,
a nutshell.
I know.
Perfect. And the dude's completely oblivious.
Yeah, he has no clue. Absolutely had no flipping clue. Like he literally just had no clue.
So John, you have to give us a clue.
I know. Because yesterday, let's see what it was. I made a post yesterday. Let me go find it. I got to remember it. I made a post yesterday. I made a comment on the Antioch shooting on a Steven Crowder's Facebook page. And I said that the father, because it turns out the guy's dad gave him his guns back after the police confiscated the guns from him because of his mental illness. And I literally stated that his father should be arrested and prosecuted right beside of him for the murder of those 4 people that guy shot and killed at that Waffle House. Well, somebody commented on it and started making comments like I talked about it being the gun's fault. Like, had no clue. He's like, the tool, he just went on and on and on about this, this, that, and the other. And the tool doesn't matter. It's not the gun's fault, blah, 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 blah. Of course it don't. And I just made a post of the screenshot that said, people that don't read make me laugh. Well, this guy comments, he's like, I sent you a PM. I need you to read it and get in contact, get back with me. And I said, well, the company email is this. Here's my phone number. I'm open from 9 to 5. And he literally responds back with, oh, well, this isn't about business. I need your opinion on a car part.
Yeah. To iterate even more on that, it was about business. It just wasn't about his business or he wasn't like a paying customer. Well, maybe he was. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But it definitely wasn't about some business that he was doing with him right now. So
it was about Nunya.
Yeah. So on the status, talking about people not being able to read, this guy doesn't read and then wants to be an asshole and ask John questions about stuff that it's not even pertaining to his business right then and there. And that's what it's like to deal with this business for sure.
Yeah. Not even my products. I've got an issue. You have to look under the request. It's not about an issue I'm having with something. It's something I'm having unrelated to any of your products. And I'm like, oh, so you want my free opinion? Now, here's the kicker to this whole deal. He sent me the original message at 2:00 in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning. I made this post at 8:30 while I'm sitting down eating breakfast, just piddling on my phone before my day starts. So it's not even business hours, and he's trying to pump me for free information about stuff. And I was just like, are you kidding?
Right.
Just really, at least communicate in the method I ask you to communicate in if you're going to bug me for free tech help.
Yup. They're relentless, man. Like, they're absolutely relentless. My favorite thing is when people comment on something like unrelated work or like wish you a happy birthday or like, hey man, happy St. Patrick's Day or something like that. Like, and they're only just trying to get your attention. You know what I mean? Like, it's not sincere.
It's either that or then there's the guy that hops on that post and makes a comment like, I sent you a PM yesterday at 7:30. Can you read that and get back to me? And it's Sunday morning at like 11 o'clock.
Yeah. Is Darth Vader on the line?
I know. What the hell are we listening to?
I don't know who's doing that.
Dude, either it's Darth Vader or somebody's having a hell of a time that I am not. Oh, it stopped.
They muted themselves.
They must have finished.
I stepped upstairs to check the audio stream,
guys.
And I came back, and it's like MSNBC Politico. What the hell are we talking about? Talk about happy things, man. I need some happy thoughts.
Okay, this is not happy. I apologize. I'm moving boxes into my new house.
That's what it is. It's Bill.
I thought I had the thing on mute, and it turned itself back on in my pocket. So,
and I heard this in the background.
Gonna die.
Sounded like you're doing something else with box. Yeah. I don't know.
I only wish.
That's as X-rated as this podcast has ever sounded.
Oh, well, you inviting us on here, you messed up because
it's going to be an interesting.
Now, come on, man! I had Jimmy on because he's super positive. I had a good chat with him. I met him at James
I'm
Short
super
class.
Positive, but I'm a dirty bird.
Oh, great!
Oh, now we know more about the stinky pinky thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
Anyways.
Hey, Jimmy
back on topic.
Jimmy just had to get the venting out of the. I'm driving the bus. It's the only thing around to drive at the current point.
I shouldn't talk about why I was late to my RealTuners class that morning, should I?
I just get the vibe tonight that you're kind of just barely on time, but perfect, but just maybe a minute or two late to everything in your world, man. It's cool.
Oh yeah, I'm reliable for sure. But when I had a job, I was like a last minute guy for sure.
Yeah,
but I was there. I was there for sure. But something I'm paying to go to. If there's an opportunity arises,
then I'm definitely going to be late.
I'm gonna. Yeah, it was a hell of a night. Okay. Anyways,
I feel you. No, God, the topic. The material covered. James did an awesome job on the GM stuff. We're getting a lot of good feedback. Guys are going home and their cars are running better. But that is a lot of material to cover. Like that was a whole amazing. Level up on the standalone stuff to digest.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But
it made me feel really stupid.
Yeah, right. Me
about
too.
Mechanical fuel injection?
No, this was a class on
mechanical.
A class on GM factory ECU tuning for Generation 4, Generation 3, and Generation 4 GM V8s. So everything up to the last two revisions up before the direct injected stuff, right?
What I learned at that class was that whenever I have a customer come to my dyno that wants a GM ECU tuned, I'm just going to pay James to do it. And
yeah, I know.
Just remote in, sir.
Yeah, right. It's, hey, honestly, sometimes that's not a bad way to do it. You can mark up their time or whatever a little bit, as a shop manager. I do that for a lot of shops. I know Carlos Vasquez
I just want
does
my
that.
Dyno.
Yeah. I just want to run the dyno.
I just want my dyno running.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That seems to be a good way to go. But James is the man. Anyway, he's not on tonight because he's working. But
what?
I maybe or maybe I gave him a wrong link. Hold on, I better message him that too. God.
No,
yeah.
He messaged and said he wasn't going to make it. He had some stuff he had to get done. So
gotcha. So I don't got to message him then. All right, cool.
This is upsetting.
I know your hero's not here.
Do him repeatedly until he gives up and goes on the air.
Right.
Jimmy, all I got to say is I'm disappointed in Jimmy.
Shit!
There for the class, I was honestly expecting the full blown Jimmy Neutron hair, and I was fully disappointed in the fact that it's like a normal height.
That's funny. John told me about that later. He's like, "That's not Jimmy's normal look."
Well, as stated, I think I woke up in a hotel room, and I had a couple hours. I woke up in a hotel room when I was supposed to be there. So can you cut me a little slack? I was in a strange place. I was disoriented. I didn't have time to get my flat iron out, man. Come on.
Well, I was just expecting. I was expecting the full Monty on that Jimmy Neutron hair. I've been seeing you sport that shit for like 3 or 4 years now, and I was just expecting to get to see it in person for the first time, and I was let down.
That's track appearance only.
I need to go find some track pictures and put them up then on the fly here. Hold on. Search them.
That's right.
Please wait.
It was either that or you were so thrown off by these handles I got on the side of my head. They got stretched out the night before, I think. By a girl, I promise.
Going to hell. I apologize to all the shop teachers, all the wives.
It's all these tire kickers calling Jimmy for tune-ups. Hey, can I bend your ear for a minute, Jimmy? And before you know it,
they're bending it forward so the damn thing sticks straight. The good thing about it, Dean, if we're ever all riding together in the same vehicle and the brakes go out on the truck, we can just stick Jimmy's head out the window and he can cup his hands behind his ears and we'll have air brakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, so the way that I got my start in the engine business, for a guy named Joe Leach, also one of my heroes. He actually passed away a couple years ago. We had that's also how I started working in the performance industry, and then later on, he gave me the opportunity to lease his engine machine shop.
Right.
Which, it wasn't the smoothest deal there, but that's another story. Anyways, he used to say that I looked like a taxi cab with its doors open.
Oh, that's awesome.
Giving you hell.
It's all right.
Oh, it is. It's funny though. If you can't laugh at yourself and laugh at your friends, you don't deserve the ability to laugh at anybody.
That's right.
I'm pretty confident in myself, so is what it is. So we want to talk about horsepower wars, or?
Yeah, we should talk about that a little bit.
Let's start with that.
Yeah.
Who's going to win?
Well, duh.
Duh.
Team Stinky
It's going to be
Pinky.
pink. It's going to be pink.
You better bet on pink. I know that. If the odds are coming in Vegas, you might as well bet pink.
I know you got to love the Eric Yost combo. We had him on here last week, as a matter of fact, right? Those guys are also top 10 finalists, and they would be tough. But I think you guys, I spent more time talking to Jimmy about this at dinner at our class 4 weeks ago. You guys, if it's budget limited, you guys have a really good chance. I don't think a lot of people realize that you guys have doing this stuff for a long time. You know how to do all kinds of stuff on the cheap that's fast AF. You know what I'm saying?
And we've got a fairly diverse team. Like, I might have a little more experience in taking like a street car and making it into something in between a race car or something than possibly Dean a little bit. However, Dean's a natural born winner. That's just all there is to it. It doesn't matter if it's poker. It doesn't matter if it's golf. Gambling, drag racing, that's what it is. But he also, he knows how to make stuff work. So, if in the time constraint and everything like that, I wouldn't say that, he really knows how to do stuff cheap.
Well, I'm going to stick with that, because good experience means that if you've got a limited budget or constraint, you have a lot of practice getting the most out of whatever resources you have. So I'm going to say they're only giving you 10 grand on the car this time. It's going to be, or whatever the total is. It's not a lot of money. You guys are going to have to be some crafty mofos. And I mean, that's what you guys do. So
it's pretty simple. You put 7,000 in the blower and you let it ride for 4 passes. If that crank, rods, and piston can make 4 runs, there ain't nobody going to beat us.
There you go.
The redder the header, the motor runs better. Let me tell you that, buddy.
Oh, got to write that one down. That's better than more chains than brains, talking about the mod motor guys. But
Oh,
I heard that one last week.
When I saw the little audition or whatever you want to call it about, the feeler for, hey, would you want to be on this show? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, man, I got a group of guys that would just crush this, and I have a lot of people that help me get to where I'm at, from, sponsors to individuals to, my dad to family to Jimmy, and, all different types of people are behind me to make me, what I am. It's not just me doing this solo. I mean, I do put a lot of hours and shit in, but I wouldn't be where I'm at without all the people around me. And I tried to include all those people that got me to where I'm at. My dad got me into racing. He's been my best friend my whole life, and everything I've learned from racing, I learned from him. And then, I got taken under the wing from Timmy Farrell that used to tune for Connie Collette. And I started learning about, Hemi motors, and started learning about tuning blown alcohol. And then, Scoots Dakin's crew chief, I've talked to him a lot. And then, people that go with me racing, Brian Sorrell's been pitting with me for years and helping out crew. And Dan's been building my dragsters and chassis for years. So, all these people, and Jimmy does the engines, and all these people get involved. And I'm like, if we can just cherry pick the best out of all my crew that would be good for this certain job, then I think it'd be great. You know what I mean? And that's how I kind of come about with who we were using.
That's badass. Basically it boils down to the fact that you've worked with these guys a long time. You know what their skill levels are. You guys can be scrappy and get it done, which I think that's what's going to have to happen here. I like that the 10 finalists. I really like 3 or 4 of the groups. I think somebody's actually doing some decent picking. I mean, I was hoping it didn't turn into a beauty pageant or whatever. Who's got the prettiest guy on the team? But you guys got that covered. I mean, you got Jimmy Bowling, right? Dude, that guy is pretty. He's beautiful.
I don't know if it's going to be legal, but I hope they don't have a tanning bed on location while we're filming. If not, we'll be doing.
Well,
I see how it is.
Listen, if that's the case, you're screwed, because that's where Jimmy's going to be all the time.
Instead of burnt pistons, we're going to have burnt Jimmy everywhere, man.
Look, man. Look, I had to stand out on Street Outlaws, man. I was always in the back, and I had to glow.
All you had to do is put whatever sponsors you want on the back of your ears, and they'd have seen it all over the screen. This space for rent would have put. You probably could have got a bunch right there.
That's so good.
So, I'm excited about doing this thing. Another thing that we're excited about is that, they've been contacting us, once every 2 weeks, once every couple of days. But we're still kind of up in the air of what exactly we're going to build. How's it going to go down? So it's still kind of, mythical to us. Like, what is going to happen? Are we going to have 5 of the same cars? Are we going to have 2 import cars and 3 American cars? Are we going to have to do a challenge just to win a car? And so there's so many variables in this equation right now. We don't exactly know how we're going to have to perform to get where we need to be. So, it's almost like you're on one of those game shows.
I mean, have there been any updates in the last week or two, like to how this program's going to go?
They said they were going to update tonight and tomorrow. They were going to release a lot of stuff. I know they have a lot of stuff on their hands. Every team's made videos, sent stuff into them to explain who they are, what they're from, questions about them, answers about them. So everybody's familiar with all the teams, and they understand, like, ooh, let's pick a favorite team. Let's see why we like these people. Why is this person successful and these people aren't? And, to try to get a base crowd for everybody, so that Horsepower Wars is going to be, a really big event. So tons of people want to tune in and see it. So in this situation, all of us competitors are still just a little in the dark right now. So we're all excited to see what gets released and how it's going to come about.
And hope it doesn't end up dumb. I don't think it's going to end up dumb. It seems they got some pretty heavy hitters in it. So curious to see how this goes down.
I think it's going to be pretty exciting. And it's kind of a, with us right now, it's just a seat of the pants type of thing. We're just excited, ready to, get recording and do whatever we got to do. But to do that, we got to make the cut first. So they're cutting us from 10 to 5 in the next couple of weeks. So first of all, we got to, show that we have enough to make the cut, and then go from there. And then we'll see what the next.
Let us know if we got to end up doing some kind of Facebook drive or something like that, and get some.
Yeah, we got to do that for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Pretty please.
Well, make sure we know links where to send people, and I'll post them up here. I can do that on the fly.
All right. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you.
So, coolness.
So you guys don't have the basis by which 10 will be cut down to 5.
So they're gonna. Well, there's a couple things that we know that we're probably not supposed to talk about, but we'll say some of it's going to be based upon votes, and they're voting. They're not doing polls. It's just going to be likes and comments and so on and so forth. They're basically going to pay attention to who's getting the most attention. And I can tell you, when our video drops tomorrow, we're going to get the most attention. So there's that. I just know it.
You got to make sure and tag us on that, man. And I'll put that out across all of our global network.
I got a few friends that might be interested in looking at it.
What's she look like?
Well, I mean, I ain't even talking about those. I was actually talking about my actual friends.
So Dean is he's bracket racer, no prep guy. He's not real big in the LS world, so I don't think he understands how big of a superstar you are, John.
Oh, don't start that shit. Don't even start that shit. Don't even break out that.
Dude, I'll tell you, what did I tell you at shorts class or shorts shop a couple weeks ago?
Remember,
I said you're one of the sharpest rednecks I've ever met.
There you go. I'll take that.
Where are you from?
I was born and raised in just north of Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Oh, I got it. That's that New York accent threw me off a little bit.
Oh, like Bart.
Are you kidding me? New York accent? What the hell? Where's New York accent from?
It's an inside joke. One of our friends lives down in London, Kentucky. Bart, he helps us tune. He's basically like a father figure to both of us. He's got this real thick accent, and he always just calls it a New York accent.
He says, "You get lost in my New York accent, did you,
Bubby?" Bubby.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, like the first time I ever heard Lil Jon, first of all, I thought it was like the tackiest fucking name ever. But I had a customer, Josh Pratt, like 6-7 years ago. Like I was building him a short block, and I was like, "Okay, what are you doing for a cam?" He's like, "Lil Jon." I was like, "What? Okay." Like, like Lil Jon. I never hate that joke. Every time. But for real. And then, I follow you just like Scott. I told Scott a while back that, like, I've noticed in the last year, he's kind of calmed down on the internet. Like, and same thing with you. Like, I didn't really like the way you talked always. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but as you get more,
That's the
into
friendliest
business,
way I've ever heard somebody put. Man, guys are
Well,
dickheads on the internet.
You said I was an all-around nice guy.
You
so I'm trying to
are,
keep
man.
it
I
that way.
love it. You do a good job. I'm like, we got to get him on the podcast. It's just fun to hanging out with Jimmy, man. You got to know him. You got to know this crowd. They're a good time.
So, but anyways, like, you know, I like going back to Joe Leach that that gave me my start in this business, you know, and other engine builders. I thought 7-8 years ago when I was starting my own business that my end was going to be like, you know, I was still kind of young. Like I was about 30 when I got the opportunity to open my own engine machine shop. You know, Joe wanted to retire. I was leasing the place, turnkey, or whatever. And I thought my end was like, you know, I was still kind of young and, you know, I'm pretty up on social media, mostly because, you know, I just, you know, slide in chicks DMs all the time, stuff like that. Anyways. Anyways, like, but I, you know, I have a customer service background and sales background as well. Right. So, and I'm generally just a diplomatic person, man. I don't like negativity. So I thought my end was going to be that I wasn't going to be a crotchety old engine builder because most of the engine builders, what I knew growing up, they were fucking dickheads.
Right.
I liked them.
Dude, there's a
And so,
reason,
like,
as you probably know now. Carry on.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, even
Tough
like
business.
David Buschur that I bought Buschur Racing from, like he, you know, he never rubbed me the wrong way and I could understand where he's coming from, but like a lot of people didn't like the way he talked to him. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, these people will take it out of you. Like, you know, it'll take like the purity and like the niceness out of you. So, you know, I'm not as nice as I used to be. I'm diplomatic, you know what I mean? But, you know, I tell people to get fucked, you know what I mean?
Sure.
A few years ago, like, yeah, I call it firing customers. You got to fire them sometimes, you know?
Yep.
And, you know, going back to what I was talking about, that first situation and the first shop that I was in, you know, it wasn't the best deal and I got far behind and, you know, my reputation took a big hit and it's, you know, it's come back a lot the last few years. And I think a lot of people there's people that I've definitely like their opinion of me now versus like 3 or 4 years ago has completely changed because I got way far behind, man. All I had to do was say, all right, I'm opening up my own engine shop. 40 engines showed up like the first 2 months. And, you know, when you're young and, you know, you're afraid of not having work, you know, you're like, you're like, you know, you say yes. And I'm a yes man anyways. I'm a people pleaser.
Sure.
Know?
Yeah.
So, you know, I say yes, 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 yes. And then you can't get shit done. And then people start saying you're a piece of shit and blah, blah, you don't know what you're doing and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean?
You get in trouble over your head just by
people.
trying to be a good guy and helping everybody out. Yep.
Yeah. And because you are a good guy, it makes people think that you are not a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't understand. Like, you know, there's so many things like I don't like every day of my life for the last 7 years. There's a list of little 5-minute things that only take 5 minutes, that I didn't get to do. You know what I mean? And people just don't understand like exactly how busy you are, you know? And like, you know, I tell people like, look, you know, you wake up in the morning, you think about your car. You think about your race car. You think about it more than your wife, your kids. Like they're obsessed. Drag racers are junkies, you know? So it's, think about that and then imagine if you got 40 people like that you're like in charge of their sole happiness in life. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of pressure, you know? So to wrap it up, what we were talking about there, people will make you a dickhead for sure. You know what I mean? You get tired of their shit and you just got to fucking stand your ground.
That's for sure.
You got to learn to manage your projects too, man, and manage your time much better. For sure.
Yeah, you've got to be a pessimist for sure. You know, like I like whatever, like when I tell somebody I can do something, like, or whenever I tell somebody how long it'll take me to do something, before I say it, I'll just double it. And then after I double it, I'm still wrong.
Right. I tell people if you keep track of the time and as many times as your estimates were off and how far they were off, you can actually tune yourself to hit those targets. You know, I actually in my essential or my EFI, the standalone class, I have enough time to spend 20 minutes talking about project and time management. And inevitably, every class, 3 or 4 guys now will contact me and be like, oh, man, we started having 15-minute meetings every morning with the guys in the shop. And now we got customers. We're calling them with updates instead of them calling and asking. And it was, it's good to hear. We don't have time to do that in the HP Tuners GM factory stuff. But
no, that's information overload.
It is. Yeah. that
That's gonna have
James
to be a
uses every minute.
week-long
He
class.
took like 4 hours extra of them, then did like 20 hours of instruction.
Yeah.
But
Or make it into 2 classes.
yeah, that's what we talked
So-
about. We
Or a
know
week
we're
long,
learning.
or a week long.
We're trying. Sorry.
Jimmy Bowling he'd sign up and be there. He no matter what. You tell him it's a 2-week seminar in the
I'll be there.
He'll be there.
I'll be there with ears on.
Jimmy will
on.
be there, and about one other dude from Saudi Arabia or something will fly in for that long. Hey, dude, we had a guy from Qatar at our last class. So Blake Hughes' shop had his poly-specific standalone class this last weekend that I taught at, and that class was freaking awesome. Bewley, you missed out. Mo was there. Mo actually, check this out. Blake's class has always been one of the cooler places to do a class, but we have to go across the street to Nick Talafero's dyno, right? And so that part kind of sucks. You got to crowd everybody around in a shop that wasn't really meant to hold 20 people. Anyway, to go to the dyno, well, Mo from Nano and LSX Killer brought his portable dyno to the class this weekend, and it was raining. We backed it into the shop at Blake's. I mean, Blake had the place cleaned up enough. We had room to do the whole thing. And Blake's
That's
class was already
miracle in and
super
of
cool.
itself.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I said that's a miracle in and of itself that there was actually enough room in the shop to put it in.
Dude, they clean that place up his shop's always actually pretty clean. Stuff moves around. He moves things in and out fast to get things done. But
but it's just that busy. He's just got that many.
No, I know. And I felt bad. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are they spent half the day Friday not working on stuff. They were caught up, but they were, and I don't know what all they probably weren't caught up on everything. I know they were putting intakes together and doing all kinds of stuff, but they made a lot of room this time for the place. We had like 24 people sitting down, and they made a room for all of us. Anyway, it went really cool. We had room to back the dyno in there at the same time. We had Daniel Brummett's truck on there, which was that ended up being a cool story. So this class, we had people from Colorado, Wyoming, a guy from California, a guy from Maryland, a guy from West Texas, North Texas as well, Peter Neufeld, with the Neufeld brothers and Abe Lowen and all those guys with the super fast trucks. He was there. And then Zach, this guy flew in from Qatar, which I thought was pretty cool. It turns out he's like from here originally. It's like you talk to this guy and he has like a Boston or an East Coast accent. It's super funny. You thought, oh, this guy's coming in from Qatar, he's, anyway, he ended up being, you couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't tell where he was from because he talked just like the rest of us. But anyway, so that class was super cool. Huge shout out to Blake and all of his guys for having the class down there. Anyway, that's what Blake's is always a good one. He's got another one coming up in June that's only got like 3 seats left. Sorry, carry on.
So I have a different question altogether. If we can't get into the details of Horsepower TV yet because of the information embargo, you guys, Jimmy and Dean, have both been super successful at multiple kinds of events, and hopping cars to import to bracket racing. So now you guys have a name in the no prep world. But the one thing that characterizes all these things is they come and then they kind of go away.
Mhm.
How do you think it looks for no prep and these kind of things going forward?
Well, right now it's getting close to its peak, I would say. With the start of Street Outlaws and everything hitting mainstream TV and everything those guys did for drag racing, they have absolutely revived it from what it was 5 years ago. I mean, NHRA racing, everything's just kind of I don't want to say bland. I mean, when any of us that go, it's all entertaining. But when you put it on TV and you try to get millions of people to tune in and watch it, which is what makes this sport go round and what drives everything. The Street Outlaws just basically revived all of drag racing, and in the middle of that, it brought back old school street racing. And then to try to simulate the street, they scrape the track and then turn it into no prep. So now you're basically a street race in a controlled environment. Well, then, all these people want to see what's going on with Street Outlaws and street racing, this and that, but you can't have a crowd there to see it because then in street racing, that draws the cops. So in turn, these people want to see it. They can come to a place and see it exactly live, just like it is on a simulation of the street, which all we know is when they scrape a track down to nothing, there's nothing worse than bare concrete or bare asphalt to try to make a hit on and try to go as fast as you can. So that brings accidents and wrecks and reckless driving, which in turn entertains the fans even more. And then on top of it, they get to go. And now if they're on TV, they tell their friends. So now the show draws an even bigger crowd. So right now, it's like drag racing has evolved around back from the 50s. Back in the 50s and the 60s, it was match racing. You'd be like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, you got Grumpy Jenkins versus Bob Glidden this weekend at US 60 Dragway. And then they'd pack the stands in match racing, And then after that, it went to funny car match racing. They bring a couple funny cars in. You have Don Perdone versus the Snake. And you had, this big animosity between these two people. And then everybody wanted to come and see the action. So in turn, it's really drag racing just flipped over 60 years later. Now we're doing grudge races. You got whoever versus whoever, Fireball versus James Goat, or you got Chuck versus this, or, and people want to go see it. Oh, I want to see Birdman race that guy. If they're going to do it there, then I want to go watch that. So it's really, everything's come back around full circle. So I kind of like it because I wish I would have lived in the 60s and the 50s and drag raced around then. I mean, that was like an era that is lost that was just so great. It was the realest drag racing there was. If people used to just build parts all the time, you couldn't just go buy one somewhere. And whoever had the most, ingenuity would really walk the dog on people, whether it was tires, cam, whatever they did, fuel, whatever.
Oh, yeah. So they show up to a meet and be 2/10 quicker than everybody else out of the blue.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it be the greatest thing? I take my big block Chevy, dual suspended diamond dragster that goes, it's just big block Chevy, it's 671. Let's say it goes 670s in the quarter mile, right? But just take that car back to when Don Garlitz won the U.S. Nationals and he's running like 702 or 680, and I just drive this thing up to the starting line when they're push starting their shit, and then I drive it back. I mean, it's just a big block Chevy compared to the Hemis on nitro and shit from back in the day. I mean, it's crazy how much we have evolved in drag racing to how much better the parts are, how faster the cars are, and everything. And it's just come around full circle. And right now, no prep racing and the grudge racing is peaking right now. And people want to see it. People want to be involved with it. It's new to a lot of people because not a lot of people ever heard of no prep racing, especially in different parts of the United States, like down south, in between like Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma. No prep and grudge has been around for a long time down there, and now it's just starting to spread its tributaries out all over the United States, and everyone wants to get a part of it and wants to be a part of it. I mean, there's one thing about going to an NHRA race and running super comp on the throttle stop or doing something like that. But when you go to a track that there is absolutely nothing down on the track and you show up and you have no time runs, no testing, and you draw chips and you just go man to man, mano a mano against whoever you pull out of the bag, I mean, it kind of shows you where your balls are at, and then as the track comes around and later rounds, you go later rounds, now you can start stepping on it more and stepping on it more. So you not only have to be a driver, but you also have to be a chassis tuner at the same time to be able to win one of these events. So, you can show up with Birdman, twin turbo, Hemi, his shit is fast, 3,000 plus horsepower. But if the track is absolutely horrible, you and I both know you're not going to lay down half of that horsepower the first 150 feet. There's no way. So you have to tune it. Yeah. So the first, so somebody shows up with a little 1,100 horsepower, one kit, something, still has a chance. It's when you run that person and at what time.
Tuners race. Yep.
So you got a driver, you got a tuner, and you got a crowd. And you're on a surface that is not guaranteed to be good. It's not guaranteed to be shitty. And when you get out there, you're going to see a lot of squirrels. You're going to see a lot of sideways action. And we all know why spectators go to the NASCAR race. It's not to sit there and watch follow the leader. It's, when people have accidents. Not that we want anybody to have an accident, but that's the action.
That's it.
Oh, did you see that crash? So that is it brings that type of appeal to this drag racing that now it's really, really exciting because not only are they racing heads up on an unprepped surface, now it's just out of control the whole time. Anything can happen at any time,
So I think to the original point of his question, though, it touches on something that I had said when I was hanging out with Buschur and Scott a few weeks ago. Something that I just realized about this industry is it's a lot like the nightclub or bar industry. It's it's everything is about what's new. The bar business, the nightclub business, you could have a place that was, they're throwing bangers all the time. Like it's just badass place. Like everybody goes there. Then a year or two later, it's stale. The management will shut it down, then reopen all the same staff in the same exact place, call it a different name, and then, redecorate it. And boom, all of a sudden, it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like, and everybody. So it's all about, it's the bottom line is spectators is what, that seats in the stands is what pays for drag racing. So, this is something Dean is really, really, really good at. You got to be entertaining. You know what I mean? Because it's whether we like it or not. You got some people that are drag racers that's all they care about is winning that racing. They don't care about the attention. They don't care about the money. They just want to win races. Well, if you want to make a living racing, you better be entertaining because that's what's going to, that's what sponsors are going to like. That's what.
If I'd have known anything that I know now about racing back then, the first thing I'd have did, instead of taking a car down the track every single time or taking a car out to the street and street racing when I was 16 and 15 and going to 2 or 3 different places to street race when I was high school and stuff, I would have went straight to college for marketing because this whole industry is about marketing yourself, branding yourself or a company and what you can do for them to get exposure that enables you to do what you want to do. That is what everything revolves around is somebody else has to make money off what you're doing to keep you going. Just like I tint windows to feed my race cars. You guys get sponsors for your show and the people want to sponsor your show because you talk to so many people. So it's just like that. I think Larry Dixon was the guy that said it best about driving a fuel car back in the day. You could be the absolute best top fuel driver in the whole entire world and never, ever get a chance to race competitively because you didn't have the funding to bring to a team. And if you was a baseball player, let's say you were just a regular baseball player, but your dad's super, super rich, right? And you're like, Dad, I want to go play for the Yankees. And you're like, oh, you do? Well, you just don't go out there and talk to the owner of the Yankees and go, hey, put my kid on the mound. Here's $2.5 million. Put him in. Let's see what he does. And that's how it is in drag racing. You go to Schumacher or you go to Klett or somebody and you bring a little money to the table. You can sit in any car you want, regardless if you drove one or not.
If it's enough money. Yep.
You know what I mean? You got enough money to do it. So, there's tons of bracket racers, no prep racers, tons of people that could probably drive that car better than a lot of people. And then again, there are some great top fuel racers and funny car drivers out there now. Not taking anything away from anybody, but it's just one of those things. You have to be in the right spot in the right time. Let's be realistic. There are 16 seats in the United States to run a top fuel car. If you watch it, there's 16 to 18 cars is about the field, if it's ever a full field like that. Your chance at driving one of those cars is 1 in 16 in the whole United States, unless you got a shit ton of funding behind you.
No, that's the truth. Those guys have a pretty gnarly budget, annual budgets.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
So did we answer the original question or no?
80 million people.
No, I think we've answered the question in the sense that this thing is definitely reaching a sort of a peak.
Yeah.
You can see the Street Outlaws thing is morphing into something else. The whole Street Outlaws,
Street Kings
New
No Prep
Orleans
thing is awesome. That show was killer good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yes.
Yeah.
I love both shows. Don't get me wrong. I like anything that's on TV that's involved with racing. Like we all, even if it sucks, we're still going to watch it because it involves what we love to do.
Shout out to my former boss, my last
show.
IT job. I just signed on, Mr. Steve Richards. If you're still listening, good to see you, buddy. But it's funny, yeah. Thankfully, thanks to the TV shows and anything that promotes me being able to not have to do a cube job anymore, yay, A+.
Yeah.
Even if you go on the show and you actually win, but they don't let you win and they just say you tied, it's still cool.
Did that happen to you too?
Yeah, that happened. Yes, that happened to Dean for sure.
I've been at a few tapings that were never aired that were results were similar or not as?
I was where. I'm sorry. I was aired. However, it was the first ever tie on the show, as far as I know.
That's the first ever tie in the history of racing.
Yeah, right.
We actually won, and they didn't air it. We won one. They won one. They wanted to go back and run again. They ran out of time, quote unquote.
Was that in Chicago, Evans? Were you in the Chicago deal?
No, I was down in the Dirty South one with Earl Scheckneider.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
We ran him and beat him, and then they wanted to run again. Claimed, he tried to claim that he couldn't, that he wasn't up on the chip, but he went in first, and he was already banging and popping when we went in. We said, we don't care, you go in first. And then the real reason is because the guy who was flagging at the time, back then, he didn't know what he was doing with the light, and he had it down by his hip. And so if you were in the right lane, you couldn't see the light. If you were in the left lane, you couldn't see it very well, but you had a better shot at seeing it than in the right lane. And so when the light went off, Sean was sitting there in the right lane, couldn't see it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
We went back and ran it again. We said, hey, we'll swap you lanes. We didn't realize that was the issue at the time. We sat in the right lane the second pass, and that's the one they aired, was Sean leaving when the light goes off and us sitting there looking for the light.
Naturally, with IndyCar sounds and the audio overdubbed.
We left like a half second late,
Right.
And they
the IndyCar sounds.
And sure. And then it never happened because of quote unquote time.
That sucks when it happens when you're a racer or you're involved with the car. But for spectators, to me, it just says, I can't wait to see when those guys line up again a second time. Kind of cool thing about the drag racing is that, it's
that's why we don't run on paper.
Yeah.
That's why we don't run on paper.
So what is the secret to winning, at No Prep or winning on Street Outlaws?
Number one, being really, really realistic. You have to have your shit together.
Got to be real
and
fast.
know what you're doing.
Yep.
When we went down to film the Street Outlaws, there is no time runs. There is no testing. It's off the trailer, make a hit, load your shit back up, and get. That's it.
And your car in that condition needs to be able to run about a 470 on the street in the 8th.
These guys may be racing there the night before all night, or they may have been there the whole week before that. You don't know any of that. You know what I'm saying? But when you show up and you go to race, you pull it off the trailer and you run, and then you load it up. That's it. So you have to know your car. You have to know the surface you're on. And you have to know what you're up against. It's really, you really just have to have everything together. So if you see somebody go on there and do good, they know what they're doing when they go to those situations.
Yeah, you really got to be able to read the surface. That's one of the biggest things.
And adjust.
Is knowing your power management for the surface. And really, you can have a car that's slower and still win because the other guy can't read the surface and just doesn't get down.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that those words, power management. My answer to everything nowadays is power management. You know what I mean? It's like, I do a lot of stuff in the Evo world, and people talk about this, that, and the other. Like, we built a car last year, and it was before I actually bought Buschur Racing, but a couple of my friends here locally in Cincinnati, like, it's kind of a garage built car, really. And, I think we spent a lot of money on the car, even though that we didn't really need to, you know what I mean? Because really everything in this, in that situation, you got to worry about breaking parts. We're making 1,400 horsepower through a drivetrain that was meant for 270 or something like that, 280 or whatever. So everybody's they're really focused on getting the car light. They're really focused on, getting the best axles. And no, power management is the answer to everything. Get that car rolling and ramp that boost in. You know what I mean? Or ramp the timing in, however you're doing it. Power management is literally my answer to every argument on the internet the past, year.
I mean, if it's gotten to the point where you're in a situation where you just can't put down what you have. Yeah.
My answer to power management is more timing.
My answer is chassis guy, get your shit together. Converter guy, come on,
dude. Put those chips in the 6-shooter, bro. What you know about the 6-shooter, Scott Clark?
So believe it or not, I know a little bit about mechanical fuel injection, brother. I've even played with the Dial-A-Jet, so bring it. I got your 6-shooter.
No, you're right. And you and I talked about it with Dean last weekend. We got to get EFI on one of our builder cars.
I'm down for that. I've worked on a few of the early ones. I'll just leave it at that. I'm down for doing that.
He might know a thing or three.
Yep, we could make it happen. I don't know if you guys know Amanda
Notice
Hoover.
the whoa.
Do you guys? Who is it?
Nicer on EFI.
It's so much easier. I'm an EFI guy. But for me, though, what I always say, mechanical fuel injection, to me, if you, like, it's like a rite of passage, man. Like, growing up with the drag strip, like in the 80s,
Agreed.
you didn't see all of these bracket cars that were blown. Now it's like, I think Dean is part of it. Like, I really think, like, there's a couple guys before Dean. I'm not even trying to, like, shoot some of my dudes. Like, I'm not trying to build up his ego or anything like that. But, like, he's one of the first real successful bracket racers with a blower, and now, like, there's tons of bracket cars out there with blowers. You would have never, ever, ever saw that before. But, like, in the 80s, if you go to your local racetrack every weekend, you wouldn't see a blower car there. It's like, maybe at a quick 8 if your track had like special ones.
Now everywhere you can go see
mean?
a blown alky pro mod motor crammed into whatever. I know.
Yeah, and you'd see these guys, these older guys, say like in their 40s or 50s, even though I'm pretty close to there now or whatever. So,
I'm
like,
45.
They probably have glasses. They probably have like a notebook and a pen in their shirt pocket or something like that.
Hey, man, what are you trying to say?
But, like, it's like, man, these motherfuckers are bad. You know what I mean?
That's
like, damn. And it's like, dude, I want to be like that dude. So even though I'm kind of in between generations and I'm an EFI guy, like, mechanical fuel injection and blower, like, if you got that, it's a rite of passage. So, like,
I'm going to say this, man, EFI on those engines is not easy and not necessarily faster. Although
I believe that. I learned when I worked at Indy Cylinder Head that EFI is not always faster. It has to do with cylinder head efficiency.
Yeah.
Like, you might pour the fuel to it with carburetors and it might run better than EFI.
Yeah. No, I've seen that too. It's not necessarily one better. You need to go with the tool that you know how to use. That being said, I would love to do mechanical injection on a street-driven drag week car, and there's a couple of guys that are doing it from my class in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, Jerry's Performance. Those guys are going to do Rocky Mountain Race Week on a mechanically injected combo this year, which is cool. They discovered wide bands per cylinder, but anyway, carry on.
Just tell them to pull out lean out while they're going down the highway to get better gas mileage.
Right.
Open the lean out valves.
Pull that lean out valve.
No, these guys are doing the very custom hand filed barrel valve is what they're doing to try and match load with part throttle. It'll be like a poor man's Alpha N setup, but I think it can totally work, especially if they're going to run E85 if they can find it along the way, because that's got a, it's a little more forgiving than pump gas as far as you can run it pig rich through a blower. But
yeah, yep, true that.
So now that's cool stuff, man. I'm going to say I don't know about EFI on the big screw blown, big PSI, whatever blowers that a lot of the Pro Mod guys are running now. But if you look at, did you follow that thing this weekend? The Midwest Pro Mod Series record was reset. Yeah, that was Eddie, the Mojo car. I forget the guy's last name, but anyway, his tuner, Amanda Hoover, went to one of our classes here a couple weeks ago. I just thought it was interesting. And they're struggling through EFI. I wouldn't say struggling. They're doing really well. They reset the record, but then they had problems going rounds. Had a problem with a crank sensor. So it's like, they're figuring out that it's a little bit of a challenge, but it can be very rewarding to put the effort in, but it is not easy.
I know one guy that's doing really well with it's Mick Snyder. I don't know if you guys know Mick Snyder. But he's been tooling with the EFI stuff.
They're playing with the same ComSync stuff that the Amanda Hoover and them are using.
Okay, I got you.
I didn't know Mick was doing that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. So. No. It's they're actually really good at it too. I think Snyder actually will sell you and set up an entire system for your blower motor. Yeah. They're really the first ones I know of to go out and do it successfully.
Yep.
Good people too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
They will take care of you. Anything you need up there, those guys will definitely take care of you.
That's cool to hear. I don't actually know them personally, but I have like a weird family story. I don't go into it, but my mom worked with somebody who was relatives of the Snyders or whatever. It's kind of funny. Really? People I knew in racing, but through like a different family connection. Most of my family's lives back in Fort Wayne and Indianapolis, but a little closer to you guys than I'm at. But
yeah. You're close over there where Snyder's. I think he's from like Diamante or something, Indiana, up north up there somewhere. Yeah.
But anywho, so what else?
We're on your show.
Yeah, I mean, we got an hour to go. I mean, you guys take all. If you guys need to roll, feel free. We can just sit and take questions from the rest of the crowd. If not, I'll just turn it over to the.
I'm looking for a link to share for people to like and share on Horsepower Wars here.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Where will you put that at? And I'll go copy it.
I was going to put it in the comments there on the video.
Very good.
Horsepower.
It's really hard. It's really hard to find anything on Dean's page because there's like 30 posts a day and they're not even from him. Like, unfortunately, people just like him a lot. So it's kind of annoying sometimes. I was one of them. Dude, like 10, 12 years ago, like I was brainwashed too. Now at the end of the weekend, like I can't wait to get away from him.
Hey, speaking of getting away from something, let's not get off the subject here while I'm crunched for time. Do you guys have any ins?
Oh, yeah.
Or anything about a data logger dash? Have you guys ever messed with one of those?
It's race data. Race data. I already asked Scott.
He sent me a picture of that. I'd never seen it or heard of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Did they have any support anywhere?
My problem is we went out this weekend with absolutely no data and got runner up against
Jimmy
John
told me
Doe.
about that. He's like, dude, we taped an oil pressure gauge up on the hood or something like that. Hilarious.
Yeah. All the sensors are there. Everything's wired in. It shows it in the dash. But when you start the car, everything reads 0. It's got no RPM. I got no RPM, no oil pressure, no EGT, no fuel pressure, no drive shaft sensor, nothing. It reads nothing.
And we can't data log it either. But that's simply because we don't have the software.
Yeah.
So we don't have the software and the dash isn't even working.
What is the manufacturer again that's listed on it?
Race data.
Race data.
It's
anybody ever heard of a race data dash logger?
Yeah, it's race data I-100. They went out of business like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
But what we need is somebody that has the software in their laptop to just send me a copy of it, because it just takes a printer cable to connect your laptop or computer to it.
Sure.
So I can get in it and see what's going on. You know, maybe it needs an upload of a newer software version or something. You know what I mean? I have no idea.
Something that is out of date, out of
But we've got race pack and a couple other things.
I was gonna say you gotta have something laying around you can replace that with. Holy crap!
We do, but we got another. We got to leave in like a day to go somewhere else to race. So we're trying to go to Cordova this weekend. So to rewire and get the sensors right and everything like that, you know.
I think.
Do you guys have some pictures or something we could show people?
Yep, he's got some pictures. He's been posting them. No luck.
Really? You got? Who do I send the picture to? I'm sitting here looking at one.
You can send it to me, Scott Clark.
Hold on, let me see. Can I do that while I'm on the phone with you?
Yeah,
I think you can. Yeah.
Out of the program. Yeah.
Did you do it, Jimmy?
No. I'm looking for something else right now.
Here, let me do this. Let me try this.
But that's the best way to throw the biggest net. You guys obviously have an uphill battle with finding somebody who has something. And at that age, is the software going to be sufficiently portable to be downloaded on a memory stick and then sent to you or what have you? But that's about your only hope at this point. I would agree.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
we're just in a time crunch. We don't have a problem getting another data logger with the car. We're just in a time crunch.
Yeah,
I think you just put something in and wing it for the couple sensors that you really, really need, and worry about the grand scheme of all the rest of the sensors when you have time. Get the important stuff.
Right.
I sent you too. Yeah, that's the problem. Is I really need flow sensor, fuel pressure, boost, and then I can deal with tuning the drive shaft speed and stuff by thumb. That's no big deal. But I can't tell where I'm stepping on this thing just besides getting a plug reading. And if I need to go out there and make 300 or 400 more horsepower in a matter of a hit or two, I don't want to go out there and torch this thing to the ground just because I don't have data, but it's on the car. You know what I mean? Just to make one race.
If you don't have software, at least move a couple sensors over so you have enough data to not burn something up.
Yeah. Well, the problem is it doesn't read it. All the sensors are there, but it doesn't read any of them.
That's what I'm saying. Move it over to something that will read those.
Yeah, that's the other problem. It's not compatible with RacePack or any other system. You know how everybody makes their own sensors, like RacePack sensors only work with RacePack, or Computech works with Computech.
They all work with everything if you figure out which wire has the power, signal, and voltage.
Okay.
It does, but
Once
some
you
of them
get
are.
past
It's
their
not hard,
little
not easy to
module,
do in a
they
race
all
pack
work the
setup.
same.
That's not easy to
Yeah.
do in a race pack.
Yeah.
That's
So
why
you
the
lock-
new
you go straight to the sensor at that point. You don't go through their little blue thing that has their CAN bus module in it.
yeah.
Yeah. The VNet.
The VNet.
Yeah. You just got to get to the sensor portion itself. The sensor itself is very universal. There are a million of them out. They use generic sensors and rebrand them just like everybody does. And you just take the sensor and lop off the end, put a connector on it, go.
Okay.
Do you
Do you
need
need-
the
do you
do you
need
need the
the-
dash to make a lap, or can you make?
No, I don't need the dash. I just need the data after the run so I can know where I'm at. I mean, I've got a baseline right now.
I just put them in
where
the slideshow. They're coming up.
Yeah. So we got enough
Reached
data. We can go A to B
I-100.
right now and not hurt anything. But I mean, it's got fuel coming out of the pipes. It's so stupid, fat, safe. You know.
So, guys, what's the fast way to get that set of sensors hooked into something that could run just into a laptop or something, and just let the laptop be the data logger? I don't know if it would live in that car, but or maybe a tablet.
We'll just mount voltage gauges to them and do the conversion. We'll put GoPros on each one.
That'll work.
Yeah.
That'll
Yeah.
actually work in a pinch, man. If I had to go racing, I'd be doing that real quick.
He did actually ask me if I had a GoPro for something like that last weekend.
Yeah.
No. I left it at home.
I'm gonna need 2 fuel pressure gauges in the left hand. I'm gonna need a boost gauge in the right hand. Let's hope we go straight, and then I'll hold the camera in my mouth so we can see a hit there.
I own a VHS tape. We used to run an A fuel coupe, which was a 327 Chevy on alcohol with a Lucas injection setup, and we just did the pill thing. But I have VHS that we put one of the earliest portable VHSs, strapped cameras to the top of the roll bar, and then strapped the unit to the back. It was a big portable thing about the size of a suitcase.
Yeah.
But it actually did it. We were only running 9 flat, but it did it.
Yeah. Actually, a guy is writing me as we're doing this saying that he has software for this. Get with him ASAP.
Sweet. Winning.
I need to know what where he's at. It's 10 o'clock here. Hopefully he's out west. It's only like 7.
Whoever you are, hit him up. Give him some contact info. That's awesome.
Hit him up.
It'll be great. So, I mean, if I can do that, then all the stuff will work. You know, what's weird is we'll plug a laptop in it. My buddy said he thought he had the software, and we get it plugged in, printer cable. The dash kicks on, and all of a sudden, all the EGTs start reading. The fuel pressure start reading.
Oh, it's almost working.
The temperature starts reading, and then you unplug the computer from it, like you unplug the printer cable, and then it just goes into like limp mode. Like it's like
the cable in it.
Yeah. I need to make a hit with the cable and the laptop just sitting in the passenger seat, right?
Yep. Tape it down.
That's what we do in import stuff. Didn't I tell you? My bad.
Yep. Couple bungees.
And it's your loves that. Good Lord.
That's right.
Do not.
Nothing
We're not.
like-
This is what we need. Like a bill. We need a fine print discussion there.
Yeah.
Not
Nothing like
recommended.
projectile, whatever. Flying missiles inside the car.
RealTuners does not endorse strapping laptops inside cars.
Not at all.
At least go to Walmart and buy a mount.
So it's secured properly.
Yeah.
I mean, you buy a mount at Walmart for $15. Come on.
Yeah.
Suction cups right to your Lexan.
Hopefully that guy helps us out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have been unfortunate enough to wreck or eat shit or go over a car. I have. I mean, I went like let's just say 430 something on the roof, and you realize that little shit that you put in the seat next to you, like, oh, let's put that Zeus tool over here. How about that? Let's put that 9/16 right here in case we got to change that pill real quick in the lanes. And then when you get upside down and start going around, all this shit's flying around your face, and you get out and there's a Zeus tool in your pocket and one in your jacket, and you're like, where did this stuff come from? You know what I mean? You start flipping around upside down, everything in that car comes loose. You don't really expect it, you know how it does.
That's funny. It reminds me of my dad, Jeff Bowling. He's a bracket racer, and that's what I always think about. He keeps a lot of stuff in his car, right? Namely, he keeps a hairbrush behind the seat in his race car, and he does not have hair like me at all. As a matter of fact, I got really fucking lucky on the hair thing. That's probably why I do what I do with my hair, because I was deathly afraid of losing my hair, but thankfully that comes from the mother's side. But like my dad, I get my vanity from my dad for sure, and he's got like he probably has cologne in his bracket car. It would not surprise me. Love you, Dad.
No, the cologne in the car is for the guys who run super gas.
Yeah, like he runs super street. So what's that mean? That's a second slower in the quarter mile. But I'll get in the car every now and again, and I'm like, God, man, like I have a real problem with like having like this area that's like ready to go, and like, but it's why it takes me so long to do shit. Like I got to be prepared. Like shit's got to be in the right place. I got to like, so I can get that neuro networking down. My hand just goes here, this is there. You know what I mean? But like, so I can be like in the machine shop portion of my shop, and or like I'll be in the assembly room of my shop, and it'll be like spotless. But I'll know the engine machine shop is a fucking disaster, and like I can't work. Like it fucks me up. So and like once every other year, I actually drive a race car, which is about to change. I will. I get my dad's car. I'm like, man, there's all this shit in the car. Like I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I still grip 00, 000, but you know I do it. But it's yeah, the shit in the race car is probably a bad idea.
All right, this guy's actually writing me as I'm talking to you guys. I don't want to cut you guys short, but I'm going to try to get on this so we can go to Cordova this weekend, that race that James Goat and Chuck Sightsinger and
Yep, get her done so you guys can kick some
doing.
ass. Yep, coming down.
I'm going to try to get on this to see if I can get this stuff. If I can get this data recording, I can test tomorrow, and then we can head out tomorrow night and go be there Friday. So I greatly appreciate everything. Thanks for inviting me, guys. You guys ever need anything, feel free to call me, and don't vote for us on Horsepower Wars, Team Stinky Pinky, man. Whenever you get a
we
chance.
will update everybody as soon as we know how they can do that. So let us know.
All right, guys, go tear it up.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Bye.
I got nothing but time. Not really, because that means I got a bunch of shit I got to do here in the next.
No, hang out with
hours.
us as long as you can. I know you're good to hang.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I just wanted to touch on a couple things on Horsepower Wars. We didn't get a chance to talk about some of our other team members. Our other team member, Dean's dad, we call him Papa Disco. A lot of people don't even know. He's actually, well, you might. A lot of people, you know how like people call Scott Taylor John Doe, like, they get the car name mixed up with the, the actual driver's name or whatever. No, Dean's name's Disco Dean Carnes, and that's what everybody calls him, Disco. Well, a lot of people don't know his dad is the actual Disco Dean. Like he's Disco Dean Carnes Jr. And that comes from, his dad was, popular back in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, he's a veteran drag racer. He's ran like modified back in the day. He's worked in engine shops. He actually worked for NHRA for years. And he's just all around experienced drag racer. So he's one of our team members for Horsepower Wars. So he definitely like takes the role of patriarch very well. Kind of annoying to me sometimes, but but and that's why it will be interesting if we actually make it on the show, because I guarantee you there will be sparks flying at some point in time. So anyways, but he's a great guy. Lots of experience drag racing. Then also Dan Davies at Diamond Race Cars. It's actually kind of weird. It's kind of funny. He builds Dean's dragster chassis. He's a great chassis builder. He's one of the first people to really perfect a suspension on a front suspension on a dragster. It's like a cantilever setup. You don't see any goofy shocks or anything like that. It's a really slick deal. Very talented. He also backhalves cars and things like that. What's funny about it is I brought one of my friends from the Evo world to PRI a couple of years ago. His name's Josh Papoon. We call him Poonie. Then I started calling him the Poon Star, and I created a monster. I created a monster that I regret there. But anyways, that's a different story. Like I introduced him to Dan, and he was like, oh, Dan that makes the subframes for Evos. I'm like, no. He builds dragsters, like blah blah. He's like, and Dan is like, yeah. I was like, wait a second. Like I've been knowing you for how long, and I didn't even know that. Like then this is part of me being like in so many different directions in the drag racing world. I didn't even know that he built these subframes, and actually now the company that I own, Buschur Racing, sells them. Like I didn't even know that he built stuff for Evos. So it's a weird, small little world there, or whatever. So anyways, he's on team, and then we got Brian Sorrells, which is a good friend of Dean's. He was a Army veteran. He worked on I can't remember what program you worked on, like turning wrenches on in the military, but all around hard worker. So I think it'll be pretty entertaining. You know, yeah, that's the best I can say. You know, I think we got a good shot at winning, but I do know that we will be the most entertaining people for sure.
Right on. No, I'm stoked to see how this pans out.
Yeah,
This is how you win on TV.
Yeah, right. Well, they got the pretty guy
you know.
covered. They got the guys that know how to go fast covered. Man.
You know, Dean, I wouldn't say I'm the pretty guy on the team. Dean's pretty too. Like he's up there. As a matter of fact, like I don't know. Some people think that I stole my hairstyle from him, but I was working on that before we became friends, like 15 years ago.
Oh.
Anyway, it's like, you guys want to talk about any engine stuff or anything like that? There's a few things that I could talk about.
I mean, yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. So you told me that you're technically what you spend a lot of time doing. You're still actually doing a lot of machine work, right?
Well, honestly, the only labor portion that I really do anymore is porting cylinder heads. And I got to tell you, I don't have the patience for it like I used to. I remember, so, you know, one of the things I always say about myself is I'm not a very talented person. You know what I mean? Like in anything, but I will not give up on my dreams. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you knew what I've been through in the last 7 years that I've been in business for myself, like, and for me to like wake up every day and keep on doing what I was doing, no matter like what people were saying about me, like
yep.
what kind of pressure that I was under, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I've always been like you said I'm a very positive person, right? Well, I am. And I lived through a whole lot of stuff when I was growing up. Like, you know, I have a really, really, really diverse background. You know, I had like a family that was all about responsibility. Then I had a dad that was all about living his dreams and drag racing. And,
which is the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, all I knew is I wanted to wake up in the morning and think about drag racing only. You know, I was like a BEC student. You know, I could take a test on something that I didn't study at all, because what I was really doing in class is I had a Mopar magazine or a hot rod magazine and my Trapper Keeper. That's what I was doing. So I would take a test and get a C or a B on something that I didn't pay any attention to whatsoever, you know? And so anyways, the diversity thing, like, you know, I was being pulled in these totally different directions. Well, you know, the one family was kind of about money and responsibility. And then I had the other was like about drag racing, living their dreams. And I told myself I never wanted to be race car poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like, so that's why, like, you know, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm in my late 30s, I'll say, unfortunately. A lot of people don't really realize that, but
because it's not really that old, dude. Just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of coined as like a person that doesn't drive race cars. Well, it's not that. It's that I never wanted to be race car poor. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
Man, that's kind of my same
money.
situation. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to make money thinking about racing and racing only, you know? So like that's kind of where the direction that I've always been. I call it kind of like the Greg Anderson approach. And I'm not 100% sure the way this is, but I know that Greg Anderson worked for Warren J for years.
Right.
And then, you know, he picked up his knowledge, you know, and then he found a money guy, you know, and then he went pro stock racing. I don't know if he raced or drove race cars that much before then, but that's kind of the program I hope I'm on.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so, which sucks. And I know you've got to do some EFI tuning on some pro stock stuff. Like obviously everybody's really like uncertain about the state of pro stock nowadays.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of a blower guy too. And obviously I like the fuel cars and everything like that.
I like watching the pro
stock
mods better. Hate to say it, man. I love the people I work with in the pro stock stuff, but it's a different world than, you know.
Well, yeah.
Pro stock.
What?
I still like watching the pro stock, but it's no good on TV anymore. It's only good in person.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But you have, as an engine builder, you respect the technology, man.
Sure.
Like, so, I'm not any groundbreaking engine builder. I'll tell you that right now. I can screw a motor together and make it live with a turbo and a blower on it. But when it comes to like speccing a combination or something like that, I've got people that I work with that help me with that, like Booley, you know what I mean? Or like, that's just it. I do spend a whole lot of time on surface finish on cylinders. I actually do have a profilometer. I talk to like Kevin Studeker at Total Seal.
Yeah.
Another engine building friend of mine, Brad Legman. I'm Legman out in California at QMP. I bet you in the last 2 or 3 years, I've probably spent hundreds of hours perfecting surface finish and everything like that.
Wow.
Actually measuring, taking the profilometer like every step of the way, checking like 3 or 4 different types of diamonds, like what's going to give me the best surface finish. Because, surface finish is really critical on the big boost stuff. So, that's one of the things that I pride myself on.
That's outstanding. Nope, that's cool. And that's just a lot of trial and error and work and tracking your progress and stuff that takes time to do.
I don't think I have anything figured out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I do. I know that I know way more about it than some of my peers that I look up to, or not peers, but mentors that I look up to. But
sure.
They're like, I've been doing this shit for 40 years and it works.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you never know.
It's your job carrying the torch to do a little bit better and as wherever you can. Yeah.
Yeah. I try to take pride in making sure the catch can is it's not as snotty as, the least amount of snot as possible, But when you get into the 60, 70, 80 pounds of boost stuff like we do, you're going to fill a catch can up. That's all there is to it. It doesn't matter what the ringing gaps are or anything like that. So I think I went off topic like 5 times there.
No, it's okay, man. It's good. That's why we have plenty of time. We don't make this a 20-minute show. We just bullshit for 2 hours and we're just like, 2 hours came and went. Okay, see ya.
Yeah.
So following up on that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We'll let Bill go with that one.
When we bullshit, we get the biggest followings.
Yeah, clearly. That's what's funny is when we don't have a plan, we get the most downloads, I guess, if you're into the stats. I'm not really concerned about it because we're not monetizing it, but whatever.
Well, candid conversations are the best.
They are.
You know what I mean?
And we try to make that, we do the best we can to make it so that you can kind of say what you think and what's on your mind here without fear of being judged too bad until you burn through 20 engine builders and then we'll judge you.
Oh no! Some of the engine building people that you had on there, and some that are like on right now. It's like I don't even want to talk about this stuff in front of them because growing up in this business, everybody talked about the difference in an engine builder. You know what I mean? And somebody that can build a motor together. It's totally
an assembler and a builder. So,
I don't care. I'm in a weird middle place in my career where like. I'm not afraid to say that I have like literal fans, which sounds really stupid.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
And then I got people that are looking at my Facebook that I know like are the guys that I've been, that known me since I was 10 years old or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, they're having such a fucking laugh at this right now. So it's, I'm very careful about saying that I know anything. The only thing that I will tell you about myself is I will not give up and I will not stop working. You won't outwork me.
Good.
The only thing I'll say about what I know is I don't know as much today as I hope to know tomorrow.
That's 100%. That's why I say you're one of the sharpest rednecks I know.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those days that you stop learning. You need to quit doing what you're doing.
That's right.
That's basically what it boils down to for me.
And so then I think I was kind of touching on this when I started talking about the only thing I really do is porting cylinder heads and not having patience for much else. So I love the building process. I love the technical aspect. I love working on the cars. However, don't get it twisted. My main goal, well, besides being a motorsports mogul, and that's something I've been joking about for a long time.
Good luck.
It's the truth. That's what my goals are. If I only make it 80% there, whatever. Anyways, my main goal is to drive race cars like for a living, just like anybody else. You know what I mean? I want to go racing, So the business is the thing to feed that. You know what I mean? So right now I've got 5 employees in between 2 different shops, Buschur and All In. And, you know, I can't really lie about it. They do most of the work now. You know what I mean? Except for cylinder head porting, but I'm even having my guy Mike at Buschur do a lot of that stuff now too. You know, you learn, like right now I'm as interested in business development as I am the technology behind the racing, you know, because when you got to decide, like, am I a business person or am I an engine builder? You know, well, there's one thing that I know about that. If you're good at the business part and you're making a lot of money, you can get back to the engine building thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got guys that worked for me that are as obsessed with the knowledge and the technology as I used to be. So it's all about passing the torch. I'm in an interim stage. You know what I mean? I'm nobody yet compared to some of the people that I look at, but there's people that are on the come up below me too that I'm kind of passing the torch to. You know, so you know that's why I've told you before. I talk way more about the industry anymore to people than I do about any of the technology. Honestly,
yeah. That's what you're more interested in. That's the stuff you're working on now, day to day, is building the business. I will kind of confess to being in a similar place as you. You know, I'm kind of, I'm a little done. I'm kind of moving on from the chasing. I'll do 4 or 5 maybe race cars a year, just kind of like I like to do that part, but I'm actually being able to separate myself back to the doing it hobby quantities, maybe cooler stuff, but and then focusing, my efforts on other areas of the business, like keep putting food on the table,
Right, exactly. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. And it's nice being able to balance that out and get into a place where we've gotten to a place this last year where at least we're able to kind of step back, take a breath, work on it, go fix the other, kind of make round robin in the business and go fix little areas and improve little areas here and there and stuff, and getting ready for some overhauls this winter. I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So,
and what I like about that deal, what I like about that deal is, man, I'll tell anybody that's listening right now that has any interest in learning EFI, go to a RealTuners class, whether it's, Scott Clark teaching standalone stuff or James Short doing the HP tuners on the GM ECU, because this is what I felt like to me. It felt like a family to me,
I didn't even have to pay for this. Once again, thank you.
Well, but so here's the thing: what people are like, the state of this industry and what the internet has done to this industry and everything else in the world.
Uh-huh.
There's so much hate. You know what I mean? I got into drag racing. Well, I mean, my dad drag raced.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about drag racing was camaraderie. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You might want to beat the guy, but like, man, some of my best friends that I've got some, I've got a couple like best friends that I've had for 20 years or 30 years or something like that don't drag race, or even some that do, that I see some people, like I hang out with people that live 7 states away more than I do some of my friends that live at home,
Yeah.
And drag racing is a big family. So to me, these guys want to get on the internet and fucking talk shit. Like, they just want attention. They just want attention. You know what I mean?
You can go to the track and you can be buddies with everybody there and have no problems. And then you can be enemies for 10 seconds.
All winter long.
That's right.
All winter long. Yep.
That's right. So to me, like going to your class, like I can tell that it's coming from a place of love, and that's what I'm about. You know what I mean? I have a love for this sport. I have a love
same
for
here.
this interest.
Yep. I want to see everybody go home and go fast on their own with minimal frustration, so that they enjoyed the effort that they put into these projects. I see too many guys abandoning, jumping ship, getting confused at certain parts, or getting misled by other people in the industry. And it's like, man, you just killed the enjoyment because you spent way more money than you needed to, or you took way longer than you needed to, or Yeah,
some guys unfortunately picked the wrong guy to go with, and they learn the hard way, and they've already spent
people fall for bullshit, because what it is, it's a popularity contest. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right,
and
dude.
Then when
you just say it.
Get around to the point where they're ready to get with the right person, then they realize that they've wasted $50,000, and then they no longer want to do it.
Oh yeah, and it's going back to the popularity contest. Like, dude, like I've always been like a guy that's helped people. Like before I started my own business, you know, I hoard myself out for years. You know, I hoard myself out to Dean. I still do. For what
I hear that, Dean. Some bitch.
Yeah. So for like what I should be making a day, like when I go racing with him, like he doesn't leave me high and dry. He takes care of me. Don't get me wrong. But like, you know, I still hoard myself out just to be at the racetrack and just to gain experience and for networking and so on and so forth. But I did that shit for years for free. So before I started my own business, everybody fucking liked me because all I was doing was helping people. You know what I mean? But when money starts exchanging hands, and you can't do what you promised to do because you said yes to everything because you want your hands on everything, a little bit of ego on your own part, because, you know, most of us in this business have an ego problem. And also because you're
speak for yourself.
Loser. Well, it's what I said. Most insecure, like most greatness is derived from insecurity. So everybody out there doing something great, it's probably originally because they're insecure, and people can't fucking handle that. That, like you tell that, it doesn't matter if they're a bodybuilder, they're, you know, they got fast cars, they got the baddest bitches, whatever the case may be. Like they went in that direction because they were afraid that they couldn't originally, and you can't convince them otherwise. So anyways, back to the popularity contest, you know, like I heard like before, like I was just used to everybody liking me because like, you know, all I was doing was helping people. And then, you know, I got upside down really bad. And you know, I gained a lot of enemies really fucking quick in the first couple of years I was in business. And luckily most all of those people, like I have so many people that hated my fucking guts 4 or 5 years ago that said like, man, you know, you're a real dude. You stood behind what you said you were going to do. Because I had people, you know, that couldn't wait on me to finish their stuff, and they took it out of there before it was done, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I couldn't even afford to pay back like deposits and stuff like that. So, man, I had IOUs out the ass, and you know, there's probably still 2 or 3 stragglers, and probably after this podcast, I'll get a couple people hit me up like, "Hey, man, what about that couple $100 you said you're going to give me like 5 years ago?" Oh shit. And I'll be like, God damn it.
Come to RealTuners, collect your debts.
Yeah. It'll be like another month before I'll be able to build my own race car now, thanks to that one. Anyways, like, but back to the popularity contest. People are so, like, they're blind, man. Because I remember the first, like, 6 months I was in business. Like, people were vouching for me that I had never met before. They had never done any business with me. I had no clue who they were. They were talking about how great I was. And I like literally messaged people like, hey man, like you can tell people you heard I'm a nice guy, but like you don't know that
Take
about
it easy.
me. So like I appreciate the kind words, but say something believable and something real. You know what I mean? Because I don't want anybody to fake the funk when it comes to me. You know what I mean?
Actually, sometimes the flower reviews get old, especially when you're trying to get feedback on, hey, what can I change to improve my program?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to know.
Yeah.
And thankfully for me, you know, there's probably a couple of people that still to this day probably don't believe it, but I'm a very self-aware person. I know my weaknesses. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I know, like most of us in this business, I'm overly ambitious. I'm too optimistic. I want to do it all. You know what I mean? I know that. You know, and I know tons of other negative things about myself. But you know, it's just back to the popularity contest. That is, you know, kind of like what I was talking about. This business being similar to like the nightclub business. You know, this is unpopular shit that people are gonna hate my fucking guts for. Potential customers and everything. But I speak the fucking truth. That's all I know to do. Like a lot of people in the car game, whether it's racing or street cars or whatever, they're insecure dudes that like couldn't get laid on their own or something like that. So they decided, well, maybe if I get a fast car, like maybe the bitches will be all over me. You know what I mean? That's how they are. Like that's so like that's.
Then they find out what a pain in the ass it is to keep a fast car running.
It'll get their attention for a minute, and then after like a couple. Yeah. So this is the demographic that you have to deal with when you work in this business. You know what I mean? People that can, because they're insecure, they can never be wrong. They can't tell their friends and their family that I couldn't afford to buy the right parts, or I can't afford to pay my bill at the machine shop, and that's the reason why the engine's not done yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they don't want to say that shit.
No, they would just want to say, "Oh, it's held up in engine builder jail."
Yeah. That's exactly it. Body shop jail, chassis jail, engine builder jail, And then if you you mix that in with one or two stories that are real, because like I said, like I have no problem admitting it. Like I got way in over my head the first 2-3 years I was in business. It was a bad business deal with leasing the shop that I was doing, but it was the way that I got my start.
Yep.
So I finally am in a place that I don't regret it, but I had lots of,
awesome.
I had a couple years where I did regret it, I think. So anyways, you get a couple of real stories where you really are in the wrong on something. You know what I mean? Like, somebody gave you a big deposit and they can't wait on you anymore. And like, they want to take your stuff out or their stuff out and you can't even pay them back, but they paid you like 4 months ago or something like that. Like, I've been there, so you get a couple of real stories like that. But then you get this other guy over here that's a fucking idiot or he's broke and he doesn't want to admit that he's broke. And you mix that in there, everybody believes it because then it becomes mob mentality because social media is about entertainment. Like,
pick up your pitchforks, right? Yeah.
It's a witch hunt. It's mob mentality. And then on top of that, the greatest asset in the world, like asset trading right now, is attention. You know what I mean? So like social media, whether it's Snapchat, whether it's Facebook or anything like that, it's all to win your attention because, that's marketing dollars for this company or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And that's what we've all like bought into it. Right. So these guys are fucking bored at their day jobs, or their jobs or whatever. And all they know to do to pass the time is to make funny shit, like make up funny shit about people on the internet. And when it comes to like me and other people and the situations that I have been in.
Mary King, what is your day job?
Right?
Right.
I think Mary King, he might not have a day job anymore. Hopefully.
Oh, I don't think he needs to. I used to see some of this stuff was hilarious too. But now I wonder, does you have a team of people working for you or what?
Yeah. Another guy that was on our Street Outlaws Ohio episode, Brad Elgin, and he's like been gaining some popularity the last year or two, doing a lot. He's done more of the like no prep kings than we have and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure what he does, but he like buys and sells cars, but he sold a car to a Mary King a few months back. Brad, if you're listening, correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's the way that went down. So anyways, but yeah, like, so these guys, they just want to talk shit about people all day long just to pass their day at work. Meanwhile, you're talking shit about somebody that is pouring their heart and soul into everything that they're doing. And their main goal, like the only reason why I didn't quit 3 years ago, 4 years ago is because I couldn't afford to.
Right.
Like I couldn't afford. Like if I stopped taking new jobs in, the place fucking shuts down and I'm upside down $100,000.
Right away. Yep.
Boom. Like, guess what? So guess what? And that's one of the interesting things about our industry is I get unsolicited advice from other friends that own businesses all the time. Like, oh, well, you should tell that guy to fuck off. Well, guess what? That guy does what I do for fun. He's friends with all of my friends.
Right.
He's friends with my family. I can't tell people to fuck off. I'm going to hear about it at a family function. I'm going to hear about like, oh, so-and-so was saying this. Blah, blah. You can't. So like, say like you got a friend that's a plumber. Like, guess what, plumber guy? Your plumbing customer, he doesn't wake up in the morning and think about his plumbing. He's not on a bunch of Facebook groups about plumbing. He's not going to places every week to show off his plumbing, right? Where other people are, right? So like, it doesn't work like that. When you do what you do for passion, like for a living, like, dude, it's rough. People don't understand it. It'll make you hate life if you let it, and, I almost let it, but, me not being able to hold my head high at the racetrack was not a fucking option.
Right. That would be a problem. If I
can't go to the racetrack anymore, like I can't, show my face at the racetrack, I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. So for me, not giving up was never, ever, ever something that I could do. And, for the most part, I've, especially the last year or so, like, I would say I'm on the come up. Anyways. Am I doing a good job?
You're doing fine, brother. You're doing good, man. You caught me at a time where I'm taking a sip of my drink for the night.
That's it.
You know what I hear? We talk about some of the problems with some of our customers in this industry, but I haven't worked in another industry where you run across as many talented, passionate people like the people on this call, that work their asses off trying to do the best thing for their customers. So it's also the best of it. And, yeah, there's problems out there, but that's why I'm doing this for a living now. I've done a lot of other things for a living, and none of them bring this kind of satisfaction. And yet, I had a few of those calls today too. So, with
I work
one
in an
comes the
industry.
other.
I use racing as a hobby. I work in an industry every day that is very much customer driven, that is very much the whole purpose is to satisfy the customer, the music industry. Everything we do is about making that person out there, the customer, the person in the crowd, happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody in the industry works like super hard to get to that point. Nobody half-asses it and expects you to enjoy them. They have to work hard or you just don't enjoy it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I think, again, going back to like one of the biggest commodities out there that's traded is attention, just like I was talking about earlier, like even in racing, like your job is to entertain people, to make people happy. It doesn't matter if you're a guy cleaning parts in an engine machine shop that's like a much smaller cog in a bigger machine. Like, we're in the entertainment industry. Like, this is all there is to it, because without entertainment, there's not spectators for racetracks to be open. There's not sponsors to help us go racing. So like, yeah, everything is kind of attention and entertainment based.
Amen.
I might be way out there.
That's the truth.
I might be way out there.
No, it's funny because you were talking about that while during the slideshow, Keith Berry's old Corvette was just flipping by, and I'm like, yep, entertainment is a big part of it.
Yeah, it really is, man. Really, really, really is.
Rock on. Well, what else? Anybody else? Any questions? Questions for Mr. Bowling on how to run a business and keep your positivity? People like you. I'm getting good feedback.
I haven't even been looking at any of the.
Are you going home for the evening, or what are you
doing?
doing, man? It sounds like you like hopped in the car and.
No, I'm still at my shop. There's usually like I probably do at least one all-nighter a week still, but that's only to do with like if Dean gets this ECU shit or this data logger figured out. Like I probably got less than 36 hours to jump in a motorhome and go. Well, on top of that, Buschur Racing and All In Racing are in the same state, but they're 3 hours apart. Ask me how I do that. I do all of the engine machine work, or my guys do all the machine work, and I do some of the port work in Cincinnati for a shop where we assemble stuff in Wakeman, Ohio, which is up by Norwalk, one of the best drag strips in the world. So sometimes to get the stuff done, to make it work, because like to me, like the guys at Buschur, like my guy that runs the place, he's been there for 14 years. So he's been doing the same thing continuously forever. He's a little grumpy for one. For two, he's fucking a great hard worker. And I try to make his job as the least amount of annoying as possible. so I got a guy that works for me that I feel like he's my customer or my boss almost. So like I'm really hard on my guys at All In to do the machine work for Buschur and to do it perfectly and efficiently and make sure that we're not waiting. So it's almost like, my other business is my customer. So Glenn Wallace and we will get done, at 1 o'clock in the morning doing some stuff. And by we will get done, I mean, like I'm on the computer doing a bunch of stuff that could be like misconstrued as having fun or dicking off.
Right.
But being on Facebook is really like the largest part of the job. I'm not saying I want to get sidetracked and, look at chicks' butts or anything like that. I do that. But when you work 24/7, like, I'll be working on a Sunday. I'll be working on a Saturday night. I'll be answering phone calls, text messages at all hours times. So sometimes you got to zone out in the middle of the week and do this or the other. Anyways, we'll get done at like 1 o'clock in the morning and then we'll drive from Cincinnati to Wakeman. And I haven't even got a place to live up there yet. So I'm still staying in a hotel when I'm up there. So far, it's worked out to be cheaper than having an apartment up there also, but we'll see how that goes. So, we'll leave here at 1 o'clock in the morning and drive to like Mansfield or something like that, get a hotel room, take a 2 or 3 hour nap, and then show up at the shop and stay there and pretty much do like an assembly marathon, you know what I mean, for a day and a half, 2 days, like assemble 6-7 short blocks or something. Sometimes it's not always that busy, so So yeah, right now I'm still at the shop. I've been trying to do the gym thing a little bit more lately, but I guess I'm not going to do that tonight. So I'll probably go home and probably take some Tylenol PM and try to get up early tomorrow. But it's very common for us to be working until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Man, that's what it takes if you want to get ahead and stay ahead in a business like this. I'll tell you what. Yeah. I got work to do yet tonight after I get off the podcast, believe it or not.
Yeah, my newest thing that I say to everybody, just like my standard answer to a lot of car arguments, is power management. The other thing, when I'm like giving one of my really shitty pep talks to Glenn or anybody else that works for me, is it's kill or be killed. So it's when you're not working, somebody else is. And we're not only, all business is competitive, but our customers compete against other customers. You know what I mean? So like if you want to do something big in life, you got to fucking do things that other people aren't willing to do. Like work today like nobody else is willing to, so you can live tomorrow like other people
like
can't,
no one else gets to. Yep.
Yeah. So, and everybody that works for me, my two guys at Buschur, there's two of them that are about my age. But the 3 or 4 other people, they're early 20s. So I keep on telling them, like, bro, like all these people say that you don't live to work, you work to live. That's fucking bullshit.
Right. You need to love what you do. I live to do I like doing what I'm doing. I know Bewley feels the same way. He probably fell asleep on us, but
that is true, but that's not even the direction that I'm going with that. The thing is, it goes back to kill or be killed. If you work your ass off, all these things that people are warning about, like, well, travel while you can, do this while you can, build a race car before you buy a house and you get a kid. Fuck that shit. Make a fuckload of money and make a name for yourself so you can still do whatever the fuck you want when you have those responsibilities also. That's a little bit too rosy, but you get what I'm saying.
I get you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Sorry. We'll mark the tags explicit on the MP3 tag stuff. It's easier than we're sitting here talking amongst ourselves in the chat. Evans is like, well, do you take the recording and go back and bleep all the F-bombs? I'm like, no, I don't know what I don't have 14 hours. That's all right.
It's funny. Like I always talk, even in our Drag Wars application, like I'm kind of a chameleon. Like I can be a redneck. I can kind of like be a little bit, I don't want to say gangster, but like it is whatever. Or I'm like super articulate.
Right.
I'm super articulate, and I don't.
We all have mouths like sailors. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't know which way it's going to be ever.
No, it's okay, man. It's okay. The beauty of the media format and the broadcast that we're on. I mean, you can do and say whatever you want to, almost. Yeah.
And what's funny is I saw that there was like no other like headline on this. I was like, God, I'm gonna have to talk a lot. Well, it's not really hard for me.
Yeah, I don't know where this came from, Jimmy. You said more tonight in this 2-hour thing than I think I've ever heard you say in like 4 or 5 years.
So before I used to talk a lot always, like before I was in business. Now it's really hard to get me to talk. But when I do talk, and especially if it's about the industry,
it's impossible to get you to shut up.
Yeah. But I mean, nobody else really said anything, so I'll just keep on rolling with
it. I'm trying to work. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little quiet because I'm a little distracted. I'm trying to get done. I'll tell
you this, John. So that turbo deal, for the Buschur Racing Mustang that we're going to do an SPE project for, SPE turbo, and kind of, I'm not saying we're gunning for Capizzi because that's just ridiculous to say, but I would like to get in the 7s with that on a stock bottom end. After Scott and James' class, when I said, I don't want to screw with the stock ECU, I'm just not going to do that. I kind of got a little inspired, and I was like,
to try it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm going to do a stock ECU in that thing, and we're going to do nitrous for this because
nice.
We've got 5.3 stocked up like cordwood around here,
Right.
So we're going to do I want to really get good at NA tuning on the 5.3, like with using HP tuners, and then step my nitrous game up, and then next year build the turbo. So it's actually,
that's actually a plan for a good progression, in my opinion. Yep, that's right. Yeah. Get yourself.
Everybody starts with a little spray.
Yep.
I'm not really a nitrous guy. The only way that I run nitrous is if there's 60 50, 70 pounds boost on top of it.
Right. So I can get that
the
big
way
honking
I
turbo
explain to
spooling.
people is you want to get in, you build a motor race naturally aspirated. You want to go a little faster. You don't have a lot of money. You can probably afford a little bit of nitrous, one chunk, a little bit every race. It's spread out over time versus investing
making payments.
$6,000 to make.
Everything is better with nitrous.
Right.
Yeah.
Mo chimes in.
Well,
Yeah.
Mo, I ain't gonna discount and say that, but I think I'm one of the few people I know that has never ever even owned a nitrous system.
Nope.
one,
Even
but I
I've
never
owned
used
one.
one.
Yep. I had 125 shot on a bone stock LT1 94.
John, we can
Camaro.
turn that frown upside down with a little bit of nitrous.
That's fine. By the way, where I was going with that is, John, now you got to pick us a nitrous cam.
Oh, that's easy.
all of my customers, so they're like, look, this is what John says to run. Like even my cousin that I didn't even know was my cousin until I did a motor for him or something like that. Like he's at this truck, like an 06 53 or something like that. And I wanted to do a cam in it, and I went with your pick. And he's like, man, shouldn't we do, I don't know, whatever, stage 3 or whatever. I'm like, no, this is what John says to do. And like, he had it in his mind that cam was not enough. And he was just never, ever, ever satisfied. I'm like, dude, like, you're dead wrong. You know what I mean? So like, he's like, dude, you didn't even put a cam in this. I'm like, yes, I did. It's like, nobody wants to listen, man. But that's why I know who is in the know, so I do what they say.
What to do is a moving target in this industry, and it's so funny because like when I started out and it was Yellow Bullet like 12 and 13, I was doing stuff
I'm out on there.
Do what? What'd you say, Mo?
I said I'm not allowed on there.
I don't have time to be on there.
I'm still allowed, but I have to behave.
I started on there, and like everybody was talking about how big my cams were. They're too big. They're too big. You can't do. They're too big. They're too big. Okay, that's your opinion. That's what you got.
Is there such a thing?
No, my 252, 274 worked pretty awesome on my nitrous.
I know, right? And then, I'm talking about the turbo stuff. Just going back to like, Jimmy talking about, not putting a big enough cam in a turbo motor. And now my stuff's too small. And like, and here's the thing about that whole deal is like, I haven't changed my approach to how I cam the engine at all. But like what the end thing is changes back and forth. Like, everybody, it's the 12 is the thing to do. And the stage 2's too big. It can't get anything done. And then, now everybody's like, it's too small. It doesn't make any noise. It doesn't do that. I'm just like, man, oh man, y'all killing me. It's hilarious because it's a moving target. What's going on and what the hot setup is. It's always a moving target.
I think I finally stopped talking long enough to find a link to where you guys can like our Horsepower Wars nomination. I could be wrong though.
Put it on the comments on the Facebook page.
I'm trying.
Nope, too late. Took too long.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We only got 6 minutes left. We'll see. Share now, listener. You guys, if you boys don't start talking, I'll start talking again.
You can talk freely, man. You got 5 or 6 more minutes of time. We don't actually have a hard stop, but Scott's got work to do tonight.
Okay,
guys,
so if we go back to Horsepower Wars and voting for it or liking it or whatever else is going to happen, have they given you the timeline for any of this?
So they're going to pick the top 5, or no, I'm sorry. The top 5 is going to be chosen by sometime like first or second week of May. So as far as I have heard, it's going to be based on likes and so on and so forth on posts. They are getting ready to drop videos that we all had to make. And they said today, but it might not be until tomorrow. They're on the left coast, so maybe they're a little behind still yet. I'm looking at their webpage right now to see if they dropped the videos. So probably likes and comments and reaction to the videos that we post, and the original where they shared each team, which is actually kind of screwy here because like I was on the Horsepower Wars page, and there's a dream team that is number 10, and then there's 9 that they selected out of the entries or whatever. And for whatever reason, I can't find ours on the Drag Wars Facebook page anymore. But I can tell you that we slaughtered the likes and shares. So it might not be based off merit on how well we can win, but I guess, like I said, everything's a popularity contest, and that's got nothing to do with me. That's all got to do with my boy Disco for the time being. For the time being, I'm on the come up, bro.
It's the hair.
He's got real similar hair. He just doesn't. I guess he's finally at it. He's a few years older than me. I think he's finally like, you know, he's beyond that.
You guys need to like do makeup up your game, like Kiss, but car guys.
You might ought to want to watch some of the videos that are about to come out.
Oh, if I missed some stuff.
There's no makeup, but there's costume for sure. And thankfully, I did most of the video editing. So some of the shit that I did that was really far out there, I cut some of it out, but I left just enough in, so it should be kind of funny.
Can't wait to see this.
I'm definitely a funny person to look at, and it's by design. For sure. Everybody always like, oh, yeah, man, I was watching Street Outlaws, and then I just saw this hair. Like, that was me.
That's
sure
us.
Call that my buddy John Goff. He was reading some books last year about, I don't know, picking up women or something like that. So they call it peacocking. I guess I've been peacocking for years.
He's a peacock. You gotta let him fly.
Yeah, I don't know. Wait, fly? Is this back to an ear reference or no?
Other guy's movie reference.
Yeah.
Wow, it was good having you, man. That was good stuff. Good chat. Kept us going for 2 hours. A+.
If you need filler, just hit me up.
I will. I mean, obviously, we tell these guys you're welcome to sit back in because I go through this round robin of extra hosts and I burn them out for a while, and then they come back for a while. We're getting ready to have our 1 year anniversary on the air, and every one of these was 2 hours, so it's like that'll be 108 hours of content online that we put up in the first year. But
that's wild, man.
That is nuts. I know, and I'm not saying
it's surreal for you too.
A little bit. It slowed things down doing this every week for a year, and we only missed a Wednesday night twice, and we bumped it to a Thursday. Once was Valentine's Day, and the other one was coming home from Drag Week, I think.
Yeah,
or getting ready for Drag Week.
It's funny you just mentioned Drag Week because I was going to say something about Drag Week. One of the talking about love, and I might be a co-pilot, Lonnie Tibbs.
That'd be sweet. You should do it.
I might be a co-pilot this year. I missed an opportunity last year.
You're going to work your ass off, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what I do. So, anyways, going back to that love thing about racing, how we all love it. There's so many, and I watch how I spend most of my spare time. Like if I'm like watching stuff, it's usually about like hip hop. Like 80s, 90s. 2000s hip hop. And it's funny to see like people that make it and how they talk about like how they used to be fans, and then all of a sudden they're kicking with these people that they're fans of and they can't believe it. Well, so this is segueing into Larry Larson, right? So I remember I'm a huge Vegas buff, right? So that Nova video of Larry Larson like 8 years ago.
Oh, the 1320 guys took. Yep.
Yeah, man. He's running sixes in the freaking quarter mile with a Linko, which is on my bucket list. I would have a car with a Linko. Yep. He's running sixes in the quarter mile, and he's cruising the strip in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
That's my biggest
that car to me is still one of the most legit. It's steel and glass car, so it's. Yep. I mean, him and Sherry Hop in it, dude. So when I was at his shop when he was finishing up the truck in 2014, helping on that project. I kid you not. That he would hop at probably every couple of days, if the weather was nice, he would take that to the part store to go hunt something down. I remember going for a ride, and my first ride in the Nova was wife had the truck. She was out running errands. So we hopped in it's the Chevy 2. We hopped in the Chevy 2 and we went to an O'Reilly's and a Napa. And I think and finally went to a couple different places and found some parts, went out driving literally for just like 2 hours and not even realizing that, oh, dude, total street car. And it's got a Lenko, though. It's so badass. And a reverser and all that. Yeah, it's cool. It's
So, Larry's at some of these no prep races and some of the like filmings that we've done for Street Halls and stuff like that. I've talked to him. He probably has no clue who I am or whatever. You know what I mean? But like his wife is super nice. Like, I think we've stayed in the same hotel, or I've like been in like a grocery store. I think I literally did run into him in Walmart at some
Mama
race,
Bear rules. That she rules the roost. But yeah, carry on.
But anyways, like, 2 or 3 years before I opened up my own shop, like that video dropped. And I was like, dude, I was just like, this guy is my idol. You know what I mean? Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like,
I will send the good word along. I'm close friends with the guys, with Larry and the guys at the shop there. I will send the good words. But they're an inspiration to many.
Yeah. And now, like, talking to you, like, who is tuned on the car and stuff like that, it's just like, it's just funny how, you can't give up. You got to keep on doing what you want to do. You know what I mean? And
keep learning. I mean, you made a point early on about try to make sure, you and John both talked about trying to make sure you know more tomorrow than you do today. And that's kind of if you just keep adding little steps at a time, you get your career up to that point. But
my other favorite thing is to be the quietest guy in the room. So you learn, but obviously I fucked that up tonight.
We can't win everything, Jimmy.
You don't have to be
We'll save the winning for this weekend in Cordova.
Amen.
Yeah, you don't have to be the quietest guy in the room. You just want to be the dumbest guy in the room.
That's right. I'll do that every time.
I'll take that. I'll take that every day of the week.
Yep.
That's funny. We should probably wrap it up then, guys.
I guess.
What's thanks for joining us, Mr. Jimmy Bowling. All kinds of good words of wisdom there. Okay, let's see what we got going on. People are bugging me about classes, and I'm working on dates. And I plan on Friday of this week setting some more dates. We're going to add 2 or 3 if we can on Friday. But for those asking for the standalone, whether you're into Holly, Mega Squirt, Fast, Big Stuff, Fuel Tech, whatever, we got a 2-day class we opened up in Detroit. There are 17 spots left for that, which is awesome. And then also we got and that's June 30th weekend. July 21st weekend, a 2-day class at Nano Nitrous in Kansas City. Okay, it says Bonner Springs, Kansas. That's Kansas City. Good one to fly to. Not too far from the airport. But those are the ones that have seats open for the standalone classes. And yes, we are working on more factory ECU dates once James and I, we were reworking things a little bit. But otherwise, good having these guys tonight. And thanks everybody for tuning in and listening. And we will talk to you guys in a week. Peace out.